Hi everyone, I'm David Aragona, and this is the 2021 TimeformUS Road to the Kentucky Derby series, where we handicap the Kentucky Derby preps. This week we have two preps taking place, one in New York and one in Florida. In this video, we're going to take a look at the one taking place at Tampa Bay Downs. It's the 11th race there on Saturday, the Grade 3 Sam F. Davis, the prep for their local Tampa Bay Derby. We've got a pretty intriguing field of 13 runners, 12 in the main body of the race. Let's start by taking a look at this entire field. The favorite on the morning line is the number 5 Smiley Sobatka, though I'll get to a discussion of the morning line in a little bit. I would imagine the favorite is ultimately going to be the number 3 Known Agenda, even though he's listed as 6-1 in the morning line. To me, if I put on my morning line maker hat, he looks like the clear-cut favorite in this race. But it's a pretty intriguing field. We've got plenty of horses coming off maiden wins, some coming out of allowance company, a few with stakes experience, but plenty of horses that really do need to prove themselves on the Derby trail in this race. Before we get to the contenders, let's take a look at the TimeformUS pace projector. And no surprise, in a field that's as large as this, with horses stretching out in distance, this race is projected to feature a fast pace. Note that the number 9, Candyman Rocket, who's stretching out from a sprint race, is shown to be on a slight early lead over the number 7, Boca Boy, a local Florida horse who's raced down at Gulfstream, who has shown plenty of speed in some prior starts, including a few sprint races. And that aforementioned morning line favorite, the number 5, Smiley Sobatka, also shown close to the pace, though he's a bit more versatile. He can also race as a stalker. Let's move on to the horse that I personally think will be favored. That's the number 3 Known Agenda, one of 2 Todd Pletcher trainees in this race, and clearly the more heralded of the two. He ran very well to break his maiden 2 back at Aqueduct, and let's just go right into the replay of that race, because he beat a pretty notable horse who's dueling with him as they come to the top of the stretch here. On the outside, that is Greatest Honor, who you might remember from last week, won the Grade 3 Holy Bull at Gulfstream very impressively and rocketed up many people's Kentucky Derby lists. I know many people consider him to be their top contender for the Kentucky Derby at this point after that impressive win last week. And Known Agenda, you can see battling back on the inside here. He's very game to fend off Greatest Honor at the end of this race, getting the win there by a nose. They finished over 20 lengths ahead of the rest of the field. Now, Known Agenda did come back at his next start and disappoint a little bit as the 9-5 second choice in the Remsen last year, but he caught a sloppy track that day. Also, you can make an argument that the rail was not the best place to be on that Remsen card at Aqueduct, and Known Agenda was right down to the inside path for much of his trip. John Velasquez actually took out the whip on the backstretch to try to keep him interested, and I think that just speaks to the fact that he was kind of getting discouraged racing down that deep or going down the inside. His 2 recent TimeformUS speed figures, 103 and 104, those basically make him the horse to beat already, and it seems like he has a forward move in him up based on that last performance. Furthermore, Todd Pletcher just seems to be very dangerous with all the 3-year-olds he sends to the Tampa Bay Downs. Let's throw up a stat from DRF Formulator. You can see over the past 5 years with 3-year-olds in dirt routes at Tampa Bay Downs, he's 16 for 35, winning at a near 50% clip with a healthy ROI. Now, I don't think this horse is going to be the 6-1 that he's pegged on the morning line. He'll probably be the favorite, but I think he should be in this race. And this stat is comprised primarily of short-priced horses. So just speaking to the fact that I think we're likely to see a good effort from Known Agenda in this Sam Davis, and that's probably going to be good enough to beat this field. Moving on to the morning line favorite, that is the number 5, Smiley Sobatka, pegged at 3-1 on the morning line. I think he might go up a little bit from there. He's coming off a decent effort last time out in that Kentucky Jockey Club at Churchill Downs. Now, personally, while that was a Grade 2 event, I don't think it was a Grade 2 quality field. We just haven't seen too many horses come out of that race that distinguish themselves. Actually, a couple have come back and disappointed, including Swill, who came back in the Withers. I should say the Jerome at Aqueduct and ran very poorly as the favorite coming out of that race. So I think it still remains to be seen what the quality was of that Kentucky Jockey Club field. And Smiley Sobatka got a decent 101 TimeformUS speed figure, but that's just a little bit lower than what Known Agenda earned last time against some adversity. And personally, I thought that Smiley Sobatka earned that 101 with a pretty great trip in the Kentucky Jockey Club. The early pace was on the moderate side. He got to the front, had a clear lead coming to the 8th pole, and really had no excuse to get run down by Keep Me in Mind, who closed from the back of the pack. So I'm just not quite sure that Smiley Sobatka is really up to the level of a horse like Known Agenda. I think he might have to improve a little bit. So he was not one that I was too interested in at a relatively short price. Let's take a look at some horses that have some things to prove, including the number 9 Candyman Rocket, who I mentioned in the pace projector was likely to be on the lead in this race. He was pretty impressive last time out at Gulfstream Park, breaking his maiden. Let's take a look at that race as he draws off to win by over 9 lengths. This was only going 6 furlongs, so he does have the stamina question to answer here, but he certainly looks good doing this. He was stalking the pace about 3 wide on the far turn, took over at the quarter pole, and is going to draw off pretty impressively. If I'm looking purely at his pedigree, a mile and a 16th might be within his scope. He's by Candy Ride, a very versatile sire, and going into the second generation of his female family, there is plenty of stamina breeding in there. He's actually got a pretty classy pedigree going back a couple generations. I'm just a little bit concerned that he could take money in this race, maybe gets bet down a little bit off that 10-1 morning line. And the TimeformUS speed figure that he earned for that race, as visually impressive as it was, he only got a 96. The pace was on the moderate side. He's going to face more adversity from a pace standpoint here, and he's got questions to answer. So I was going to look elsewhere, and I'm frankly a little bit more interested in Bill Mott's other runner, the number 8 Nova Rag, so we'll take a look at next. He's coming off a local victory in the prep for this, the Pasco Stakes, going 7 furlongs. Let's take a look at that victory. Nova Rags is a horse that showed promise in his debut at Belmont Park, and I think he got back to that performance winning this Pasco here. He was wide around the far turn, looks like the kind of horse that still has some things to figure out. He was a little bit green in the early stages, and even here when he's hitting the front, he's kind of pricking his ears back and forth, not sure if he's really supposed to focus or not. At this point, he thinks his job is done as he gets away from this field. So it feels like this horse hasn't quite fulfilled his potential yet, and maybe there is more to find with him. That said, his top TimeformUS speed figure of 94, it's about 10 points lower than the best number of Known Agenda, who I think is the horse to beat. So he's going to have to find some improvement. He's bred to stretch out. He's by Union Rags, who won the Belmont Stakes, of course, and he's a half-brother to Juanita, who was a graded stakes winner going round distances. So he's supposed to get better with added ground. I'm just not sure if this might be a little bit too much too soon for him, but he definitely is one that I do expect to take a forward move in this race. Moving on to some horses that could be bigger prices. Those include the number 1 Hidden Stash. He's looking for his 3rd victory in a row, winning twice since stretching out in distance last year in Kentucky. Let's take a look at his maiden victory from Keeneland last October. This horse was going the mile and 16th distance with that short stretch run, and he strikes the lead at about the 8th pole here. And you see, though, he's hanging on his wrong lead, and that's something that bothers me a little bit, because if you watch also was going to Churchill Downs last time, he does this exact same thing. He just never changes lead through the stretch. And while he's able to get the job done here against inferior rivals, not changing leads, that could be a bit of an issue as he steps up in class into graded stakes company here. So while his TimeformUS speed figures are moving in the right direction, and he has the right running style for this race, I think he does have to learn how to change leads to be successful in this spot. Of the horses coming out of races in Kentucky, I'm actually a little bit more interested in the number 6 Runway Magic, who goes out for Rusty Arnold here. I was pretty impressed by his maiden victory, too, back at Churchill Downs. He only got a 91 TimeformUS speed figure for that race, and it was only going 7 furlongs, but I really liked the way he finished off that race. This son of Run Happy just ranged up with big, powerful strides and got away from that field nicely at the end, galloped out like a horse that should want added ground, even though he's a son of Run Happy. There's plenty of stamina breeding on the dam side that suggests he could get this distance being out of a dam that's by AP Indy. And while he disappointed last time behind draining the clock at a sprint to Gulfstream Park, I just think 6 furlongs is way too sharp for this horse. The mile and the 16th distance of this Sam F. Davis, I think, will be more in his wheelhouse. And he strikes me as the kind of horse that could get a little lost in the wagering at a price in this race. So I would like to use Runway Magic underneath in this spot. But if we can throw up my picks in this race, no surprise, I'm landing on the favorite, the horse that I think will be the favorite at the very least, the number 3 Known Agenda. Todd Pletcher, John Velasquez invading Tampa Bay Downs just seems like they're going to be pretty dangerous with a horse that already looks good enough to win this race without further improvement. I'll use that aforementioned number 6 Runway Magic underneath in the second position, and also that other Kentucky shipper Hidden Stash, as well as the up-and-coming Nova Rags underneath in the Sam F. Davis on Saturday at Tampa Bay Downs.